Do you remember being a young kid and always asking your parents why? They would give us an explanation, but somehow it would only lead to more whys. As humans, we possess a need to explain everything around us. The attribution theory is a theory of how people explain things, whether it be somebody's behavior or any event that occurred around them. Fritz Heider was the first to begin research into attribution. However, Harold Kelly and Bernard Weiner further developed Heider's ideas into what we now term as the attribution theory. We'll first begin by gaining a general grasp on this theory. Then I will provide an experiment in which shows this theory in play. And lastly, I'll take time to reflect on the experiment's results and what they mean for individuals. First, let's get a basic understanding of the principles by which people explain things. According to Susan Fiske and Shelley Taylor, authors of Social Cognition, the attribution theory explains how a person, and I quote, uses information to arrive at causal explanations for events. You can make two types of attributions, internal or external. Internal attributions are also called personal attributions. Sean McLeod, in his 2012 article in Simply Psychology, defines internal attribution as, and I quote, the process of assigning the cause of behavior to some internal characteristic rather than to outside forces. So an example of this would be a personality trait. And in his same 2012 article in Simply Psychology, Sean McLeod then goes on to further explain external attributions. He explains these attributions as, and I quote, the process of assigning the cause of behavior to some situation or event outside a person's control rather than some internal characteristic. So instead of attributing something to somebody's personality trait, they then attribute it to something must be going on around them. So an example of internal and external attributions would be pretend you failed a test. If you believe you failed a test because you didn't study enough, then you're making an internal attribution. If you believe you failed a test because the teacher did not give good enough notes, did not spend enough time on the material, or she just graded too harshly, you're making an external attribution. So now that we have the basics down, I'm going to tell you all about an experiment in which we can see the attribution theory in play. Richard Miller, Philip Brickman, and Diana Bullen, all authors of the well-researched 1975 study titled Attribution versus Persuasion as a Means for Modifying Behavior, argue that attributional training can have a direct impact on an individual's motivation. So what they did during this experiment was there was 3 different types of treatments. Children, second graders to be specific, were split into groups. One group received attributional training, the other received persuasion training, and the third received reinforcement training. The teachers were given a folder for each student, and in this folder was provided a script that went along with either attributional, persuasion, or reinforcement training. All the teachers had to do was simply read the script to their students. So I'll give you an example of a script that went along with the attributional training. Teachers would say to their students, you seem to know your arithmetic very well. You're working very hard in math. Or, you're trying more. Keep at it. So, during this experiment, before they gave them the script, they measured their math performance and their self-esteem. They read the script to the students, and then immediately afterwards, they gave the students a test to measure their math performance again and their self-esteem. 2 weeks later, they gave them both a test again, both tests. So now let's take a look at the results. The kids who received attributional training scored higher on their self-esteem tests both times, immediately after and 2 weeks after. And the children that received attributional training also scored higher than any of the other groups on their math performance test immediately after the experiment and 2 weeks after the experiment. So what's happening here? Well, the children are being given explanations for their behavior. They're told that their math performance is due to their internal factors. Thus, these kids begin making internal attributions for their praised performance. So what is the significance of this experiment's results? Well, what it means is the teachers boosted their self-confidence by helping the children realize that their math achievement was due to their own performance. They began to attribute achievement to themselves internally. So in conclusion, every single day we humans make either internal attributions or external attributions. Either one has the potential to completely shape the way we see ourselves and our environment. The style in which one attributes causality not only affects an individual's outlook on the world, but it also has been proven by this experiment to have direct implications on one's level of motivation. And after that, in turn, motivation increases, so does performance, so does achievement. So after learning about the attribution theory, I hope we all will make the conscious effort to make more internal attributions and less external attributions. Thank you.